Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. If at first you don't succeed, try to keep failing if you're Chris Chibnall. So, the official retcon of Doctor Who appears to be underway. We'll see. But this is from an article that is released today in the Mirror, and the Mirror is pure tat, can I just say for the record. But they have an interview with showrunner Chris Chibnall, and it's very telling. And I'll get into why. So first and foremost, it runs with the heading of First Black Doctor Who Jo Martin is definitively the Doctor, confirms show boss. Doctor Who boss has confirmed Jo Martin is definitively playing the Doctor, and she didn't know that what she was auditioning for. Well, they often don't. Don't you know? Jo Martin, who will play the second female Time Lord, is the real thing, according to Doctor Who showrunner Chris Chibnall. Fans were astounded last night when a new Doctor arrived to compete with Jodie Whittaker's version, even bringing her own TARDIS. Chibnall said that Martin, who becomes the first black actor in the iconic role, because it's diversity bingo time, folks, is not playing a fake or phony version. The important thing to say is she is definitively the Doctor, he explained. There is not a sort of parallel universe going on. There's no tricks. Jo Martin is the Doctor. That's why we gave her the credit at the end, which all new Doctors have the first time you see them. John Hurt got that credit. So let's leave it there. I'm glad that you brought John Hurt into this because I want to discuss that now. You see, it was only 7 years ago that this very thing happened. This very thing happened. So I could have started this video off ranting and raving once again about Chibnall trying to play woke and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, this shows that Chibs has no originality and has no ideas of his own, because John Hurt was brought in as the War Doctor only 7 years ago in the 50th anniversary Day of the Doctor special, which brought him in to bridge the gap between Paul McGann's Doctor and Christopher Eccleston's Doctor. And it was brought in an interesting way because this Doctor was created purely for war. He was created for the Time War. The war which, when we first see Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, has consumed Gallifrey, has killed all the Time Lords and the Daleks, at least that's what he thinks, apart from himself. He's the last survivor of the Time War. It was a very bold thing to do by Russell T Davies in terms of Doctor Who lore, but we had essentially seen one Doctor Who TV movie in, 15 odd years or so. And so it was time to start to play with the lore, and it was time to start to set up the new Who going forward. And for the most part, it worked very well. There were some very interesting stories to be told. So, with that said, there was a very particular and specific reason why John Hurt was brought in. So Paul McGann is the 8th Doctor, but Christopher Eccleston is still known as the 9th Doctor, even though there was that extra regeneration, but that has been classed as the War Doctor. Okay. I don't think Chibnall is good enough or creative enough to come up with a story to slot this character in. I don't. Now, if I am wrong, and this turns out to be an absolute doozy of a storyline, I will be the first person to make a video and say, hey, hands up, I was wrong. He did a good one. But with his track record so far of lecturing and preaching, with his inability to form relationships between the Doctor and the companions, they are literally strangers to each other, with his inability to create a personality for this Doctor of her own, I very much doubt that Chris Chibnall can slot this Doctor into the timeline in a cool, creative, and interesting way. Once you have shown your hand, and Chibnall showed his hand very early doors with his woke storytelling. Storytelling that was so woke, he didn't even have the creativity to try and disguise it in a story. He just goes straight to the source. Rosa Parks, India, just straight to the source. No creativeness, no out there in the universe to develop something interesting. Straight to the source. So to me, I will quite happily say right now, I think this is another one of Chibnall's, ooh, I want to tick a box. I want to pat myself on the back. I want to be the guy that created the first black female Doctor. Who else is going to say that? Oh, they could have put a black guy in, but no. I went one better on the diversity bingo. I went with the black female. And I know that sounds awfully cynical, but as I said, I think Chibs has shown his hand blatantly and obviously. And so that is what I personally think. So we could go through all this, and he talks that she's not part of a parallel universe. There's no trick. She's absolutely a Doctor. The Doctor. From wherever she comes from, because this Doctor doesn't recognise Whittaker and Whittaker doesn't recognise her. Now, the speculation is that she's going to slot in between Patrick Troughton and John Pertwee because she doesn't recognise the sonic screwdriver. That doesn't say too much. That can be explained. She could be the 568th regeneration of the Doctor, and by then she's not using the sonic screwdriver. They're using some other tech, but they still haven't fixed the chameleon circuit in the TARDIS, or whatever it may be. But if this Doctor does slot there between Troughton and Pertwee, then it creates retcon lore, because the continuity is that it goes from Troughton to Pertwee. He was banished to Earth, and that's where he was, and then we see the TARDIS materialise and Pertwee falls out. So, if they did, what would be the purpose? If that is the case, what would be the purpose? It might not be the case. These people could be wrong. I don't personally see it, but it could be wrong. But if he does slot it in the current continuity, it's literally only going to be for the sake of doing it. But, benefit of the doubt and all that. I'm not going to give the benefit of the doubt to him. He's too much of a wanker. Also, he does go on to say that Captain Jack Harkness is done. He was brought in literally for that cameo that he had in this last week's episode, and they hope to get him back in the future. But he's not in the series going forward. That is him done. And it seems to fit in quite nicely with the fact that it leaked out before Sunday's episode aired that Captain Jack Harkness was going to be in this week. I'm sure it was a complete and utter accident by the BBC, and I'm positive that they didn't do that in an effort to pop some sort of rating, hopefully, because this series is going down the shitter in terms of ratings. When you start off so strongly, and you're now at a point where you are fighting for the worst ratings that Doctor Who has done in 35 years, then that, to me, is a very definitive signal that you haven't created a better story, a better Doctor. You might have ticked some boxes, but you've not done things better. I've been put off, and I've watched all of New Who. I very much liked Eccleston. I thought he was great. I thought David Tennant was wonderful. Matt Smith was awesome, particularly when he got into his stride, because Matt Smith was this young guy, but he played a very old Doctor, and I did love that. And then we had Peter Capaldi, and I just adored Peter Capaldi's Doctor. I loved his Doctor. I thought he was sensational. I could have watched many more seasons of him. Many more seasons. As long as we didn't get any of that midlife crisis stuff that Moffat was going through. As long as we didn't get that, you know, like guitars and sonic shades and stuff. As long as we got rid of that nonsense, we're cool with the Capaldi side. But Chibnall clearly hasn't defined this Doctor, and I don't think this Doctor has been defined one bit. She doesn't even synergize with her own companions, and the companion Doctor relationship is the strongest relationship that there should be in the show. She didn't even realise when they all got zapped off last week. Didn't realise or didn't care. One of the two. Chibnall didn't care. So there we go, folks. She's an official Doctor. Where she fits into this timeline, who knows? Are they going to start retconning the lore of the Doctor? Only Chibnall's plummeting ratings can find out. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.